Alright, welcome back to today's video, guys. Today we're going to crack on. Going to be pulling the Prelude motor up into the shed and sort of pulling the gearbox off and whatever else, and just having a general overlook on the motor so we can see what sort of stuff we need to buy and get to get it ready to drop into the Prelude. So really it's sort of the last final steps we need to do before we can start pulling apart the Prelude and dropping the motor in. So at the moment, got an old Vtec motor sitting on an engine stand, so we just got to move that, make a bit of room for it, and go from there. Motor is off the stand, just need to take this bracket off and then drag the H22 up here. Alright, so just an update of what we've done so far. Prelude motor on the engine stand now. The gearbox has been taken off. Pulled the clutch and the flywheel off of this motor. Clutch definitely need a new clutch. It's worn down a fair bit. Flywheel looks pretty good. There's a couple hot spots, but I was talking to one of my friends who's a mechanic and reckons I can just go over the surface with some 80 grit sandpaper or something and put a new clutch in. It should be fine. I'm willing to take that risk. If we've got to pull it out and get the flywheel machine later on, that's alright. And gearbox is off. So next step, I'm just going to clean this motor down, make it look like new, repaint the heat shroud for the exhaust, pull this broken, cracked, skunk intake manifold all dodgied up and cracks there and whatever else, pull that off, replace it. I've just got a standard one. Once that's all replaced, timing belt needs to be replaced, new camshaft seals and front main seal, rear main seal will get done, spigot bearing and all of that, new clutch, hopefully do a full gasket kit on the motor without pulling it apart. So basically just some valve cover, intake and exhaust gasket, the main ones. This rear camshaft seal thing, that needs to be replaced, as well as Vtec solenoid seal, just so we can ensure that this motor won't be a leaky piece of crap once it's on the car. This is kind of what we're working with. It's not like bad, but there's just leaky oil everywhere around here that we got to clean up, and there's a few bad spots around the head with caked on oil. But I had a brief quick go at this side and it's come up quite nice just with a little bit of effort. So I'll time lapse it all and spend a bit more time on the whole thing, but I've taken off some of the other stuff that was in the way, so we should have a fairly straight run with this. just using normal workshop degreaser, and I've got some, it's the same stuff I used on my motorbike to clean up the block. Some Blitz alloy cleaner stuff. Seems to work pretty well. But yeah, we'll keep you up to date. It's all sprayed on. As you can see, it's fizzing up on all of the oil and corrosion on the motor. So we'll let that sit overnight and come back and blast it off with the gurney. And yeah, hopefully the motor should all turn out nice and clean. Alright, so we got the motor looking awesome. Looks pretty good. Everywhere that you'll be able to see when it's in the car is pretty much spot on. I mean, there's a few spots around the place that have a bit of oxidization on them still, but they'll be covered up, so I'm not too worried. I forgot to show you before and after of the gearbox, but this is it done. I didn't spend too long on the gearbox because, again, you're not really going to see too much of it, but it's come up just about as good as the motor. So next thing, pull this manifold off and start pulling everything off, like valve cover and all of that jazz, so we can crack on with doing some more gaskets and timing belts and whatever else. Alright, so I lied to you guys a little bit. I pulled that intake off, and sitting there, I got it next to my replacement intake that isn't cracked and broken. That's just a standard one for the H22. But we're gonna stop on this now because we don't have any parts and we're waiting for them to come in the mail. So we might as well start on the removal of the F22 in the Prelude. Radiators out, auto transmission hoses and whatever else are off and disconnected. Power steering here, that is disconnected. I couldn't quite figure out how the adjustment worked. I think I sort of got to pull the pump apart a little bit, but seems like a bit of a pain, to be honest, so I'm just going to leave it assembled, and I've just taken the bracket off the motor and it should pull out of the way when we need it to. Aircon down here has been disconnected off the motor. We'll just leave that sit there. Intake, as much as I need to, has been pulled out. There's only remaining stuff in the engine bay is going to be your engine mounts and the possibly some vacuum lines and wiring, but I'll unplug the wiring, and that's all I need to do. And now what we're going to have to do is pull the wheels off and get the CV shafts out, and then shortly we should be right to pull this motor out, hopefully. So this side here we've managed to pull, well, sort of pull the CV shaft out. The boot snap, or the CV popped open and the boot snapped off, but the rest of the CV shaft's still in the gearbox, but we can get that later once we've pulled the motor and transmission out. But yeah, so just popped the bottom ball joint off and pulled the tie rod end out and just pulled the whole assembly out, and the CV just popped away. But yeah, now we just have to do the same thing on this side, which we'll do right now. And bam, just like that, it is done. So it is actually another day. I ran out of time. It's been a few days and whatever else, but now it's time to finally pull out the motor. Off camera I've gone under and I've pulled off the exhaust bolts and whatever else. That was a bit of a pain. One of them was fighting with me, but that's alright. So yeah, now we've just got heater hoses and motor mounts, I think, I hope. Alright guys, so we've got the F22 out, got the H22 ready to get a few goodies put on it, and then got the empty engine bay. So before we put any motor in this, we gotta clean this up and make it look mint. This motor, got to spray paint the heat shield and spray the valve cover. I was going to go with Ripple Red, but I couldn't find any, so this paint I got should be a gloss red, but it'll look nice. But yeah, that was a big effort by myself, but anyway, it's out now. Alright, so we've got that painted up. It looks awesome and red. Pretty good finish so far, I think. We'll have to wait for it to dry to see what it actually looks like, but it says touch dry in an hour, and it says I can throw it around in about 3 hours. So we'll just let it sit out in the sun for a good 3 hours, maybe 4, probably just the rest of the day, and we'll chuck it on when we're ready for it later. Alright guys, we've come across a bit of a problem. So, old water pump, new water pump. The new water pump has a 19 tooth gear on it, and the old one's got a 26 tooth gear on it. So I'm going to have to get a new one again, so we'll see how long that takes to arrive. But for now, about all we can do then is just the other balance shaft seal, and up on top the 2 camshaft seals. So we'll crack on with that. That shouldn't take us too long, but yeah, we can't really finish up the timing belt or whatever for a few days probably. Alright guys, so the camera went flat, but both of these cam gear or camshaft seals have been replaced. I've just placed the valve cover on for now because I couldn't help myself. Looks pretty mint. I'm loving it. But yeah, so tomorrow I'll try and organise a water pump as soon as I can, and we'll probably get on and drop the sump. But yeah, it is 11:15 at night, and I need to go to bed so I can do this again tomorrow. Alright guys, so I didn't really run you through doing the timing belt because I myself didn't actually know what I was doing really until I was actually doing it. So you've got timing belt. I have a gates kit. Off camera I actually redid it because I didn't realise that these gates belts are directional. There's a little arrow on the belts and I completely missed that, so I had to redo it. But basically, to do the timing on this, all you want to do is get top dead center on down here on your balance shaft gear thing. There's a little arrow. There's another arrow back there on your timing belt gear. Then on your water pump around that area, there'll be another little notch. Line that up. That's your bottom end timed. Then up the top here, it's the same on the standard cam gears. You've got your main cam marking that you line straight up. Then you've got little mark there and there. Now these two here, they want to line up with each other, and then these outer ones here, you actually line them up with the top of the head here where the valve cover gasket would sit. You line those up, and then that is your cam gears timed in. Then whack your belt on and whatever else. Then working down here to your balance shaft belt, it's the same deal with bottom end marking. Now this belt, this tensioner here, you line this little mark up with that notch on the block. It's a little bit dodgy and I'm hoping I got that timed right, but I could be wrong, but fingers crossed it's right. Then this gear here, it's kind of really weird. So you come around to this side of the block, then there's this here, it's a little 12mm bolt that you undo. And then the workshop manual itself actually tells you, if I can find it, it tells you to get a 6mm bolt by 100mm long. You put that in that hole, and when it goes all the way in, it goes in a touch further than that. That's how you know that that gear is in time with the motor. It's a really weird setup, but I suppose it works if Honda says it does. And then this tensioner, there's a little spring. I didn't feel it was tight enough, so I did it up a little bit more, but do that up. I still have to nip up all these bolts, but once that's done, we'll drop the sump, so we'll get on that now. Alright, so we've got the sump cleaned up and surfaces prepped and ready to whack onto the motor. Got those surfaces ready as well. But yeah, underneath here it all looks good. Doesn't look like there's any scoring in the bores or anything bad, so hopefully this motor's a ripper when she's done. We'll whack that on now. So since I've spoken to you guys last, I chucked the intake on. Sorry I didn't video it, kind of forgot and was just sort of powering through it, but that is on and ready to go hopefully. I just checked the valve clearances off camera because I didn't want to bore you guys with that whole long process, but yeah, anyway, that's all done and all clearances seem to be good. Who knows, when it's heat cycles it might change up, but I'm just gonna chuck the valve cover on now, so I'll see you guys after that. Whoa! With the power of editing, valve cover and valve seals are all on and tightened. So basically, this motor is ready to drop into the car. As far as motor side of things, gearbox, I'll just have to place the drive shaft seals on that and put the clutch and flywheel on and stuff on the motor. But other than that, that's basically ready, so I'm pretty happy with that. It's been a good effort and a lot of time put into it, so hopefully it runs. But yeah. So yeah, I think that's going to be all for today's video, guys. So thanks for watching. Also, we passed 200 subscribers, so super stoked about that. Thank you. And this will probably come out just after Christmas, so hope you guys had a good Christmas and have a good new year. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Get keen for the next video, which I don't know if I said it already or not, but in the Prelude we should be fitting the clutch pedal and the gear shifter. But yeah, thanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe.